I look down on all the people looking up at the big sky. Everybody's pushing one another around.
Welcome to the 2-month review. This is Chad and Brian. We're here to talk about The Invented Part by Rodrigo Frazan, as we've been doing for, I believe, 6 or 7 weeks already.
Quick question at this point, before you get into your boring intro.
Yeah.
If you were like a shock jock, what would your shock jock name be? You know, like it's always like Mad Dog and Malone, or like something. It's always something dumb.
There's
right?
always something that could go with Post, I think.
The Postman?
The Postman. DJ the Postman. Just with the too.
Yeah,
DJ
the Postman.
Postman.
All right, Post. Let me know. Like, just call you by.
Post up and tell me what's going on there, Brian. So boring intro part to end. Today we're talking about Meanwhile, once again, beside the museum stairway under a big sky, which is like pages 405 through 440. And this is the 6th part of the invented part. There's only one to go, so this is like our penultimate episode. So I think we're going to recap this one, talk about it in relation to the other sections that have come before. Have fun like usual, all that kind of stuff. Couple quick bookkeeping things though before we go on. We've been posting all these under the 3-month or under the 3% podcast feed. There's also now a 2-month review feed separate from that on iTunes and Stitcher and everywhere else. So if you are listening to this, go subscribe to that, because at some point in time these will no longer be under 3%. They'll only be under 2-month review. So go there, subscribe to that feed, leave us a rating on iTunes, 5 stars, obviously, or 1 star. But nothing in between.
If there's 1 star, I'd like there to be a comment.
Yeah,
I'd prefer 1-star comments are my favorite. Whenever I look at like Amazon or something, I always go to the 1-star reviews to see why they 1-star reviewed a book, and it's always golden.
Always
so good.
Much better. Although there was just today, one of our students was in here in the office, and she was looking up Jodorowsky reviews, 1-star reviews on GoodReads, and the first one that she found was one that just said too many details.
Perfect.
Right on. So this section, I'll try and summarize this section. This is the most sci-fi-like section of the book, I think, so far, in which we left off with the writer having like merged with the God particle, transcended space and time, and now in this chapter he's essentially
messing with people's minds.
He's messing with people's minds,
forcing them to think things and do things. I do remember
the other thing I was going to bring up on this. But he's messing with everyone's minds. He's rewriting things as he wants them to be. He's created essentially a museum to himself. And the 2 characters that are the focal point of this are the young man and the young woman from section number 2, who are making the documentary about his life. And now they're here after they've lived a life together. They've come together, had like a relationship, and then it breaks apart for reasons that we'll get into in a minute, involving the young man's sort of fraudulent literary career. And now they're saying goodbye, but they just keep doing this, and they keep being sent back to the same scene to say goodbye in a different way, and then they keep coming back and saying goodbye, and the writer is kind of rewriting and tinkering with, and there's even evidence in the text of like strike through sections that are part of this repetition and variation, as like the writer is in full control of the universe now, of his universe, of his books, of his characters, of his life and everything, and is able to like manipulate it however he wants, screw with people's minds.
Nice.
So like this is like a literary version of Rick and Morty episode.
Feels like it, yeah. I like it.
What did you think of this particular one?
I liked it. It started off a little disorienting, obviously. Like I feel like most of each section does that. Like it kind of your footing. You never have good footing with this book. And obviously, that's by design and it's purposeful. But by the second half of this, like it really started. I started kind of catching some traction and really tore through the end of it. Loved it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you get all the plot parts in that second. All the details that were left out before and missed out on. Especially about, is it Ishmael Tantor?
Yeah.
Tantor?
Taintum? Taint?
Something. Whatever it is.
Tatum? Tantor. Or Tantor.
It sounds like something out of Star Wars.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. It's like Moby Dick meets Star Wars. In the figure of a character. We'll talk about that character in a second. There's 2 things I want to mention. One was, when I was writing the post for the last section, was the one that we had Tom
The
on.
Postman, putting a post down. All right.
Putting the post down all over the place. But we the one that was involved with the phone call. And I said it seemed like maybe this was all like one moment, and they all came together. I started going through and writing that. how many different references there were to time or to movement or to action.
Yes.
And then this immediately starts with, what time is it? She say at the same time, at the same hour. Meanwhile, once again, beside the museum stairway, under a big sky. Then again, no need. What time is it? It's precisely the time to say, what time is it? This goes, and all the time things come up here over and over again. In essence, because the writer has transcended space and time, all time is happening at once. He has become that science fiction, Billy Pilgrim figure, character, whatever. But it also is interesting how many times these things this sort of plays out.
You notice the other one that kind of under the Vonnegut vein? What's the book that has Titans and the
Sirens of Titan.
Titan, right? Yeah. Where the guy like appears as a ghost to people.
Oh, right.
Remember?
Right.
Yeah, and he's like going across the universe, and like there's a bit of that like popped in my brain as well when reading this.
That makes sense too. Yeah, absolutely.
Totally botched that. I read a book once that had a like Titan in the title.
Something like that.
Yeah, whatever.
I have no idea. I think it was a cartoon as well.
Such great literary knowledge. Yeah, you know that one book with the thing where the guy's going through space. It reminds me of that.
I feel like every person who's come into a bookstore ever.
Yeah, that's me, man. Yeah, awesome.
Titan space. It was blue. Where's that? Where might that be?
And it had a dog in it.
And it had a dog.
That book had a dog in it too. Shoot, maybe that was a influence here. Who knows?
That was the main thing. The other thing I wanted to point out that came up and out of the same post was that I sort of figured this out, and it's sort of cheating because I've read the book already, but I sort of figured out that a lot of these chapters are mirroring each other. So there's seven sections. And you figured out particularly that when we were doing number 4, that it was all like the notebook section, where it was all like the pieces, the frame, all the parts of the book were sort of framed there, and that ended up being like a fulcrum. And if you work out from there, chapters 3 and 5, chapter 3, the writer is like in the hospital thinking he's going to die and coming up with all these stories. And in 5,
so wait, let me map this out. So chapter 4 is the word I can't pronounce, many fates. Yeah. Right? And it's like the parties.
Yeah.
And you learn about how his family members were involved with the
Murphys and
the Fitzgeralds. And it's like it's all that connective tissue that like helps it make sense. So that's 4, right? Mm-hmm. Right in the middle. Okay. And then 3 is the hospital. The hospital. Okay.
The writer thinks he's going to die, doesn't. And then the mirror of that is 5, where he's past death.
Life after people.
Okay,
so there's 3 and 5.
And that one's all like about Tom, but it's basically about the writer having transcended.
Yeah.
2 is the
place where the sea ends,
with the young woman and the young man doing the movie, and now the young man and the young woman are back at the end of their life. In this chapter, which is 6.
But wait, and 2 is also all of Penelope's stuff.
Story.
Yeah, real long one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And 6. Meanwhile, once again, and so it's back to them again, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. And now we get the rest of his story of how he became the writer. Because if you remember in 2, one of the big tricks in 2 is that he sees the writer saying, he finds the video.
You're my favorite.
Of the writer saying that he's one of his favorite writers of all time. The young man is.
Yeah, it blows his mind.
The young man's never written anything.
Yeah.
And he's like, whoa, what is this? And there's like illusion or like implications that maybe this is some sort of crazy time travel thing or something weird is happening. Yeah. And now we get that full story, which is more actually realistic and mundane, but also and in a chapter that is all about blowing apart time and all that. And so then in 1 is the real character. Which is the boy. And chapter 7 is called the imaginary person. And that's the one that will be...
I haven't read yet, so don't spoil it for me.
Not spoiling it.
Just off of the titles, though, real and imaginary.
Real and imaginary. Yeah, so these all like...
This all makes sense. Like it's... Yeah.
Which is cool. And which actually brings up the thing that you were going to talk about in terms of the theme. Then I think we could talk about the Ishmael bit to just fill that
out. So I think off of that, it might be kind of neat. I just want to read this quick passage. It's on 423. I'll just do half of the paragraph here, so bear with me. The young man attends a writing workshop, which I did love the writing workshop scenes before, so I always love this part.
And that was in 2, so it goes back and forth again.
A young man attends a writing workshop where he learns little and where, every so often, Pure impossible desire, someone evokes with a dreamy voice the literary workshop once taught by a drunk and staggering John Cheever in the middle of Iowa cornfields, where, as an exercise, he recommended that his students keep a detailed journal for 7 days and strive to bring together 7 apparently irreconcilable people or landscapes or feelings in a single text, and then finish it off with a decisive assignment that, quote, never fails, to write a love letter as if from inside a burning building. So 7 days, 7 things that don't seem to come together, whether they're landscapes or feelings or whatever. And here we have these 7 sections, right?
Yeah,
that all connect, that all go together, that he did write apparently at the same time. So this is kind of a neat little, I don't know if this is a wink or like
a little recursive moment.
Yeah, or just like maybe, you know, if you want to look under the hood, this is maybe part of how it was made or just messing with you or whatever. But this really popped out to me once I started thinking about the 7 sections,
Yep.
7 things that shouldn't go together but do go together.
Absolutely, and because you can read each one of these separate, I still maintain that.
Yeah.
It also, he is a huge John Cheever fan. I believe that he was. I want to say that Rodrigo translated Cheever into Spanish, and I'm not sure if that's the case or if he just wrote introduction to his works. But he has had some involvement with Cheever being published in Spanish. I could pull up in my email that I want to right now. And the other thing is that Brazan was part of the International Writing Workshop in Iowa.
Really?
A number of years ago, and like it inspired some stories in one of his early books. So they're actually having their 50th anniversary next year, and they might be able to do something with Rodrigo as part of that. But yeah, so he has an Iowa connection.
Did he go to the workshop or did he teach there?
He did the thing, the international one.
Oh, okay.
It's like they bring in a certain number of writers every year from all over the world, and they are there. So like when we had that section where it was about, remember when the writer is stuck in Iowa and talks his way into meeting, like, being able to go to see the concert.
Oh yeah.
Like that might also be not that far from reality. I hope it's reality. So the other big person in here is the Ishmael Tantor bit, which we finally get the end beat. And that's one of the cool things about this second half too, and how this sort of keeps resolving itself, is that we got that first setup where the young man talked about his friend Ishmael, who was in all these same writing workshops and was like wanted to be a writer as well, but not really. Like he was more casual about it, whereas the young man,
he's always like
constantly
stands on the peripheral and never shares and never. But he distrusts it. He doesn't like it. I mean, like even the next line in that section I read, of course, none of that impressed Ishmael Tantor. Ishmael Tantor thinks all of that is for, quote, sadomasochists who like getting hit so they can hit back, which isn't a bad thing. ... But you know, he goes on. Why are you going to pay money just to give and take a hit?
Should you really have to pay someone just to watch and listen to how you give or take a hit? Yeah, which is great. And so Ishmael was referenced in that earlier section for the young man and the young woman in relation to being another writer, all that kind of stuff. And then it sort of left off. And now we get the full story where Ishmael wrote, didn't share anything, didn't really but he's super funny. He remembered every joke, blah, blah, blah. But he also had like some mental depression issues. And at one point in time and he's a big guy, when he's dying, he also has a joke that he always says, does the doggy die, in relation to any book or any movie or any artwork that people bring up, which is pretty fun. But Ishmael at one point is very sad. The young man goes to try and cheer him up, says he's going to try and invent a joke that hasn't ever been told.
Wait, one detail about Ishmael you need to make sure you add there. All my accessories must be voluminous because otherwise everything I hold makes me look too much like King Kong. So he's got like a giant briefcase or valise or something like that.
I love that idea. I'm just like,
I have the 17-inch gamer laptop just because I want it to, I'm a big guy. I want it to look small. So.
It's like Shaq. Like Shaq must have like very random large pieces of equipment.
Well, funny side note, actually, I watched, remember when like MTV Cribs was a show? Maybe it still is. I don't know.
Probably.
But I used to watch it a lot for some reason. And in Shaq's house in Florida, he had a custom-made desk that was ginormous because he wanted to have to reach for things because everything's too small for him. So this desk is like 8 times the size of a normal desk, so he has to reach for a pencil. So And I think his bed was literally made of like 4 California Kings put together and then cut into a circle with a Superman logo on it. That's his bed. What an idiot.
Hey man, he does believe the world is flat. Well, he doesn't. I know that he was just trolling everyone, but that was a pretty funny troll when he was talking about
So
that.
yeah, side note on there, but yeah.
Yeah.
It is like Shaq, actually.
It is like Shaq.
You were dead on, whether you knew it or not.
So Ishmael then, as he's depressed, the young man comes to
But
talk to him.
wait, one other side note.
Yeah.
Stop talking about the book for a second.
Got it.
Hold on, jeez. They showed his wife, and his wife is tiny.
Oh, really?
So he gets all big things except for a big woman. He gets his wife was like 5'2" or something. It's ridiculous.
Oh man.
It'd be like you dating a fetus. That's like the size difference. All right, sorry. Continue.
Percentage-wise.
Continue.
Anyways, he tells Ishmael, tries to make up a joke for Ishmael. Ishmael dies laughing, which is great too. But in the end, this all like leads up consequentially to the young man having the ashes, Ishmael's ashes, and Ishmael's possessions, which include a fully written book that is named, was it Night?
Girl, Night, Swimming Pool, etc.
That is right. Yeah.
Which was a masterpiece.
Which is a masterpiece. The reason it's brilliant, blah, blah, blah. He happens to be on the plane next to the writer who he loves.
Can we get one more morbid detail that I thought was hilarious?
More morbid details.
When Tantor was cremated, they had to like do the extra large.
The one's for like a family.
They have like a big enough for a family or a couple that happened to die together or something. Like such funny morbid details. It was a very, very funny passage.
But so he ends up saying to the writer, like, "Oh, will you read a couple pages?" Gives him like
after vomiting in the he has to go back and vomit in the bathroom real quick.
And he puts down his 7 scenes. That's another 7
deadly scenes.
We've been
Yeah.
reading 7 deadly scenes about how to break through your writer's block. Gives the writer part of girl, night, swimming pool, etc. The writer is like, "This is amazing," blah blah blah, and assumes that he wrote it. And therefore, that's why, way back in chapter 2, when someone asked him who his favorite writers were, he references the young man.
Yeah.
Because he believes the young man was the writer of this book, but it was actually Ishmael. But propels the young man's career as a writer, but obviously, like, he has none of that talent and never does anything with it again, and leads to his, like, dissolution of his relationship with the young woman. And now they're stuck forever saying goodbye because the author doesn't quite let them go, but just keeps rewriting them and rewriting them or reworking them. And even talks about how, like, he likes the young man as a character. The young woman's, like, fine, but, like, the young man is really, like, where his interest is because he's interested in characters as writers and all that kind of fun
Here's
stuff.
a question I want to bounce off of you.
Yeah.
Then. So he has the manuscript, right? And he hands it to the writer to take a look at it. I noticed when the young man first reads it, there's an epigraph that's dedicated to him,
Yep.
right? The young man, and it has his name, and it's followed by "No joke, the least funniest guy in the world. Thank you for everything."
Yep.
So how does that work then? With
I have an answer to this.
you do have an answer, okay?
And I don't remember if it's in this chapter or if it's in the one prior to it. But the writer, I think it's in the one prior to it, that the writer's first book included an epigraph to himself, essentially at a future time. So I think that's the running joke.
Okay,
That
okay.
it was dedicated to himself.
Yeah.
Like as if like 30 years from now.
So he could steal
You
steal
remember
the
that
manuscript,
still.
but it wouldn't matter because
Right.
Okay.
So
Good-
it makes sense.
good memory,
It's
yeah.
like a good little callback.
Yeah.
And makes it even more like clear that it's kind of like a metafictional section of that story. When we're talking about the nature of Ishmael being like huge or whatever, what occurs to me now is like you had mentioned the idea of like who Ishmael could sort of represent as like a writer, as like a figure. It is kind of that like giant, overwhelming. Here's a person who has so much talent, so much whatever, impresses everyone, and you want to be a writer as well, but you're in that shadow to some degree. It does take on that kind of mythological
Yeah, and especially, I don't know, like, you think of somebody, would David Foster Wallace be as popular and loved, or, like, would he have the same type of sycophants, like, people that idolize him if he didn't die?
Right. Maybe.
I mean, that's an impossible question to answer, right?
Yeah.
But
I didn't know if he writes, like, some really bad, like, Jonathan Franzen level,
like, would people in the South like Leonard Skinner less if they didn't die in that plane crash? I think they probably would, you know?
That's true.
Because you would get Leonard Skinner fatigue. I'm not trying to minimize David Foster Wallace's death, but I just think Leonard Skinner dying was pretty funny. It's not funny, but it is kind of funny. But the Big Bopper.
Yeah. All the dying young.
Dying young, Buddy Holly.
James Dean. Obviously, Amy Winehouse.
Oh dear, this is going down a dark path.
Yeah.
No,
seriously.
Yeah, no, but seriously, I do wonder though if had he had more work come out, if it changes or because if you get to just do the one-off, like here's my masterpiece, and then there's nothing else, like you have to venerate him as a titan, right? I mean,
so so you should be a baseball player for like 5 good years, and then blow out your knees and never play again.
That's a great plan.
That's all you need. Get one good.
What are you doing? Oh, I was trying to blow my knees out. What? Well, I had a great season last year, and I just want to go out on a high note.
Not gonna take it.
It's like Bo Jackson if you follow football.
Yeah.
It's always what could have been with him.
Exactly.
But no, that is a good point. Like he's physically like overwhelming, and then like his work is leaves a giant shadow as well.
Yeah.
To be serious and not so morbid and silly here for a second.
That's so morbid. And this is the Chekov section too. It references it way back when in chapter 2 as well. They say something about talking about Chekov as a writer or whatever, and it'll be like beneath a museum under a sky.
They just end up looking at the sky. There's no resolution to the story, or And
then the very last paragraph here, and whatever 439 is. Meanwhile, once again beside the museum stairway under a big sky, he says to himself that this is, in a way, the closest thing to Anton Chekov's story he'll ever write. And right back there, so everything starts to link up here.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Everything in the book that feels at some point in time like just a toss-off or like a little comment or whatever has all like basically come crashing back into being explained or being like somehow justified in the second half of the book.
Yeah, it's really frustrating because it's
so
you have to pay such close attention because there's not stuff you think you just throw away. It ends up like, oh crap, I remember reading that. Where was that? Oh man.
It's very true.
Yeah, you can't just casually read the book in the bathtub. Like, you actually sit in a chair and pay attention here.
Yeah, well, that's easy. This is one of those books that, like, I've been marking it up, obviously, because we're doing this.
Yeah.
But even so, like, it is a book that as you read it, they're like, oh, that's a great line. That's a great paragraph. That's really fun. Like, that's smart. Like, there's a lot of books I read that I don't feel like, and don't feel compelled to, like, underline things or anything like that, but this one I kind of do. This book to me is a more underlinable book than many others.
Speaking of lines, can you explain what you think is going on 417?
Yeah.
There's a paragraph it's almost like cut and pasted the exact same scene, right? And you get them kind of side by side here at 416 and 417. And then it says insert big sky. It gives the explanation, blah, 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 blah. It's almost like you're seeing the book being written as it's already written, right?
Yep.
And then there's line throughs for like an editor of some sort has come in and edited something.
Right.
So what to your mind, what's going on here?
My interpretation of this is that as the writer is the sort of like the museum and controlling all of this, that he keeps rewriting and reworking things, and this is part of seeing his process of that. Like he's retelling that same scene again, but this time he's going to insert something to make it better, and he inserts too much, and he's like, no, I need to cut that. So he edits out parts of it, and you get to see that process of the creation. So it is like invented part of it, and then it is like the repetition and variation on what's going on and trying to figure out. I mean, if you had, and this, as a metaphor for the writing process, like if you could control space time or whatever, or even if you're writing a story, there are those people who never stop reworking it.
Well, think of talking about Tender as the Night is all through this, right?
Yep.
And it was already in print, and he's rewriting it.
And rechanging, reordering. and like Will, one of the things that's great about Will Vanderheiden, the translator of this, is that he's
I forgot somebody translated this. Hey, good job, Will. Good work.
But Will's very meticulous and one of the best translators that we work with by far. But he also
has
a tendency...
man, you just called yourself out. Will's the best translator he works with, so the rest of you that translate,
I said one
you all suck.
I said one of the best.
Will's the best. The rest of you suck. That's what Chad said. Blurb.
He's like the Ishmael of translation.
He's not that big.
He's that big.
Yeah. He's not that big. He's like really fit, actually.
Yeah, he's like super athletic.
All right.
But he tends to turn in like 5 different versions of any one of these books because he turns it in and then he goes back and he tweaks like a few bits of it and then he turns it in again and he tweaks a little bit of it and he gets more and he tweaks and that's why they come out so clean. Like we have very little like editorial input in comparison to other texts, but he is one of those like constantly rejiggering it. And the writer is obviously someone who'd be constantly rejiggering things. But I think we're finally going to get the writer next chapter too.
Ooh,
like, really
exciting. Do you remember when was it in the UK where they printed the wrong copy of Franzen's Freedom book or something like that?
Oh, I don't know about that.
I think they had to like recall like 15,000 hardback copies of that freaking 1,200 page book because he discovered it while doing a reading.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I remember this is not as fun as that, but there was a Robbe-Grillet book that came out from Grove. It might have been called Repetition, in fact, a few years back, like a decade or more ago. And they gave the proofs to Richard Howard, and part of the deal was that I think that there's like one text and then there's footnotes and a second voice down below in the footnotes area, but they'd organized it like they were endnotes, and he didn't pay attention to the proofs at all. He's just like, whatever.
Yeah, looks good.
It looks good to me. And they printed it and they're like, wait a second, this is completely wrong. And like trying to read it made almost no sense because you didn't get the two voices playing off of one another.
Yeah, but how about that cover art, huh?
Yeah, killer.
That looks pretty good.
That works.
Don't look in between, but the cover looks pretty sweet, man. The blurb on the back is solid.
Yeah, I'll buy it. No, just buy books anyways. You don't have to actually read them. So I know you have a couple minutes before you have to go. Was there any other parts that jumped out to you? I mean, I do like the thing with the woman too, where he talks. I marked this one as like a section that was interesting where he talks about the and 420 about writing the young woman, and he says he suspected it then and confirmed it now, cognizant of his limitations. Even in his new atomic and atomized format, she was already written, unsurpassably written. X knew that no matter how he manipulated and polished her, she'd never achieve the heights of Isabel Archer in The Portrait of a Lady. Even the gods have limits faced with the creativity of men who, not being gods, create divine creatures. I like that because I also like the fact that Henry James, James and Cheever being two of the touchstones in this book, because that one of the references, remember when the Karmas make all their money off of some small object that's like everywhere but not defined. That's a reference to the Ambassadors by Henry James too.
Okay, I didn't catch that.
So like there's all the Henry James and Cheever are kind of the opposite of like the more crazy postmodern.
Well, like what's the famous Cheever story? Is The Swimmer?
Yeah.
Where like he's rewriting like right in his mind the history of his whole town as he swims home or something. Yeah. Is that, am I getting that correct? It's been a long time since I read. So it was like undergrad when I read that, but
it is John Cheever The Swimmer. The Swimmer is the correct title.
Okay. But I feel like if I'm remembering that correctly, and I'll get yelled at on the comments section again if I'm wrong, but get in line. But yeah, I mean, even that, it's like playing with memory and reality, and like everything just kind of somehow hints, and there's
it's all right
little crumbs all there. It's pretty incredible.
Absolutely. And there's I think that's why, and I like that it is like that classicness along with all these other things. Everything's feeding in. It's not like he's like, oh no, I've chosen like one author, one little break, because Nabokov as well. Nabokov is kind of out in a different area that keeps getting referenced, and Fitzgerald is very classic.
And Nabokov's famous for his gamesmanship. I mean, he's like a chess master after all.
Yeah. He was pretty good.
He's all right.
He's fine.
The funny thing I loved about Nabokov is half of my professors were always trying to claim he was an American writer. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, well, I guess. I don't know. Like,
sure, he wrote some of those.
No, we want him. He's ours. T.S. Eliot, that's ours. Like, Ezra Pound, that's ours.
We'll take the ones we want. The rest of them don't care.
It's like, does it really matter? Like, where he's from? Like, he's just a writer, right?
It becomes so weird about that kind of thing, too. Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, like, you want to keep up with Europe or something.
Do you, if you treat him as an American writer, do you only get to read the books he wrote when he was in America and the second half of his career and he's writing in English?
No, the rest is just spread and freedom.
It's just
Those still count.
It's just American writing that doesn't know it's American yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm feeling American. We just had a birthday,
We did, yeah.
celebrating the birthday.
It was like
yeah.
the 200th and something.
Yeah.
Who knows? Lots of people know. They know right away. But yeah.
No, but I think I'm liking this idea about the that little Cheever part talking about 7,
Yeah.
and then the seven sections and the way they're kind of all balanced and mirrored off of each other and echo.
Yep.
It kind of goes back to the parentheses at the beginning too, if you think about it.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing a good job reading this book.
I think so. I'm just glad I'm going to actually finish it.
I know. It is.
If I weren't forced to, I probably would have quit on page 5 or 6. Then I would have missed all this good stuff.
Yeah. I feel like once you start reading it, like it doesn't seem as long.
No, not at all.
Like everything goes fast, but also it's like so enjoyable. It's not like it's like.
Well, like I was mentioned earlier, it's definitely a book for people who like writers and wanting to know about writers or why people write books.
Yeah. And
I think it's definitely a book for people that are like book people as well, because there's so many references. There's like so much joy you can get out of. I mean, I probably missed 90% of some of the references in here, and I still enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I totally agree. So, do you have a favorite quote from this one? From the Cheever one.
Just another. I mean, I like that. I read that long Cheever part. We already mentioned all the parts about Ishmael that I thought were awesome. I just like another little wink on 420, sensing his presence and asking, "Is there anybody out there?" That's Pink Floyd, right?
Yeah.
Where it echoes.
Yep.
Is that from The Wall?
I think so.
Yeah. So I just like, again, just dropping little fun things here and there.
Yeah, absolutely. The one I marked that there was the writer holding a book that appeared to be about the singular moment and the plural ways of dying. Mine are becoming more and more morbid.
Jeez. That's what it'd be.
That's the last one was like holding out of the kid. So you
know who's dead? Amy Winehouse. All right, have a great day, guys. Jeez, Louise.
That's what the postman does. He brings that truth, brings it back down to the existential reality of your existence.
All right, well that's another episode of the Woodman and Post. Or wait, no, you're Postman.
Postman in the woods.
Postman in the wood, just the wood.
Just the wood.
Because you can really let that Postman in the wood. Click the link, hit subscribe, be entered to win a signed copy of a book you won't read. Leave your comments, give me that thumbs up and the like, and don't forget to have a great day. We'll see you next week.
Yep.
Do you want to end like that?
We can end right there. I was going to say one other thing.
Sorry, all right, go ahead.
But one other thing isn't about this book, but is that after we have one more episode of this left, and then we're going to be transitioning to the next season of the 2-month review, which is about Thomas Jansson bestseller by Gudberger Bergson, Icelandic author, wild book. It is available through our website, 20% off if you use the number 2-month in the discount code, but buy it now so that you're ready to go when the next season starts.
Did you buy that book so you could say you have a bestseller?
Yeah.
Burn by the wood. Burn by the wood.
I'm pretty sure that this is an international bestseller.
There you go.
Just plaster that in all the books.
Boom, do it.
So, Postman and the Wood.
Postman in the Wood. Out.
Out. Done. Have a good week, guys.